I was surprised to find out that there was no way to give somebody access to your Instagram without giving them the password.
So this is all for Mark. Mark, if you're listening, you got to fix this, man. This sounds horrible. What I'm listening, Matt going through right now is.
If they
really
want to call me, I could
horrible.
really like dive in and just like look at Creator Studio, look at Meta Business Suite, and just simplify this whole thing. I think it's like the amount of engineers they must have there and design people and stuff. Like, why is this not getting done? So now that we know that Mark Zuckerberg is paying attention to people talking about him, we're gonna have to title this video something that's gonna scare Mark Zuckerberg. He's bracing himself right now. He just clicked play on our video, and now he's hearing us talking about him. And now that we have his attention, we need to let Mark Zuckerberg know about all the issues with Creator Studio and the Meta Business Suite. So any social media managers out there are going to appreciate this one. All right. Good morning, marketers. And today I'm joined with just Tom. What's up?
Yo, how's it going, brother?
Yarrow is at, what was he at? Some HubSpot conference, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And Andrew is at some YouTube mastermind or something like that.
Yeah,
so
just doing very important things.
Yeah, so both of them are very important people, but they're going to come back, I'm sure, on the next episode and report back what they've learned. So we might have some good episodes coming up, so that'd be good.
Yeah.
So today, I think what we'll do is let's jam on a few topics we have here in our notes. So I predicted about, I don't know, 9 months ago or so. Actually, maybe it was a little bit more. It was around the time that Mark Zuckerberg was seen with lots of sunscreen on his face while he was like wakeboarding or something. At that time, right after that, he started posting a lot on his Facebook, just weird stuff, right? It was just some weird stuff that he was like, sharing about a weird status update, something that, Mark Zuckerberg normally would not do. And he just did this for like a short period of time, and then it kind of trickled off. And I think he does it once in a while now too. And he was kind of showing his personality more than usual, let's just say, right? And at that time too, I remember Elon Musk was kind of the cool billionaire, while, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, all these other billionaires that are known, don't have a great rep, right? For whatever reason. I don't even agree with why they don't have a great rep, but just, the media doesn't seem to like them. And I think there's different reasons for each of them, right? So I noticed that I thought that Mark Zuckerberg was trying to reinvent his personal brand, because when he was young, before the movie came out, before The Social Network came out, he was kind of known as cool. People looked up to him. After that movie came out, I think that actually tarnished his reputation and made him look kind of like an asshole, right? I think I'm just kind of ballparking my memory of kind of his personal brand. And then ever since then, with all the privacy issues and all the, when he was going to the Senate and just the way he even looked there, like he looked very robotic. People made fun of his hairline, his hairstyle. He was just, very just, straight face, whatever.
There were some good memes that came out of that.
Yeah, his personality didn't really shine when he was there in a sense, right? But I mean, you're getting grilled by Senate. Like, what can you do, right? So nonetheless, I've always been a fan of Mark Zuckerberg. I always defend him. When the media started reporting that the Horizons metaverse was going to charge a 47% commission on goods, I looked into it and I found out that was complete story. And we actually covered it in our show. And I pointed it out because it just seems like the media does not like Facebook. And I could give you all my predictions or my theories as to why they don't like Facebook and they don't like Mark Zuckerberg, but they don't, right? So when I saw him kind of posting and trying to act cool on Facebook, of all places, and maybe on Instagram too, I predicted that he was going to go on Joe Rogan, or host Saturday Night Live. And now he's been on Joe Rogan. So as soon as I saw that come up, I was like, right away, went to Spotify. I was like, okay, I'm watching the whole episode. I watched the whole thing, and I got a lot of interesting takeaways on there. Takeaways. I wouldn't say I learned a lot from the knowledge of Mark Zuckerberg, but I did notice that Joe Rogan, they obviously spent a lot of time together before they started recording. Did you watch it?
I have not had a chance yet.
Okay. So yeah, it seemed like they spent a lot of time together. They mentioned they talked on the phone. They mentioned that they were playing with the new Oculus 2 or whatever, and I guess it's not out yet. And so Joe Rogan was talking about his experience with it. So it was clear that they had spent several hours together before actually sitting down to record.
Okay.
And yeah, one thing that I noticed was that Joe Rogan, he kept trying to, he's like, it must be a huge burden, a lot of responsibility to be in charge of such a massive platform and to be in charge of, or to make rules or decisions that impact so many people. And he said this like several times throughout the interview. And every time Mark like never agreed. He was always kind of dodging it. And it was kind of clear, like he did not see the ramifications of how, what an important role that he had or the impact that he was making.
No one can manage 5 billion people or 3 billion people or a billion. It's like the numbers are just, they're so absurd. It's so preposterous. It doesn't make any sense. So like, I would imagine that for your mind, the amount of pressure that's involved in just maintaining, it's like, it has to be like looming over you at all times in the background. Like it's probably very difficult for you to find things that filter that out.
Yeah, I mean,
they ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not.
there's always stuff to work on, right?
Yeah.
So I think a big part of trying to push forward is maintaining enough control of my time to push on the things that like I believe need to be advanced for the future rather than being reactive.
What is it like having that kind of responsibility? Because it seems to me that would be an immense burden. You know, as you said, you're controlling the signal of 3+ billion people. That is so astounding to even say.
Well, I think the important thing is that I don't exactly look at it the way that you said. I view our job as empowering people to be able to express what they want and get the content that they want.
I'm sure there has to be some pretty intense conversations about how this is managed and handled, and the burden of that must be tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different parts of what you just said. And I think in terms of kind of helping people discover the things that they want, I think that's a pretty different wing of what we do.
What's that been like for you to assume this position and to have this position evolve and spread, and for you yourself to become this insanely successful person who is involved in this social media platform that is so massive? You have all this going on. I mean, am I freaking you out just thinking about it?
No. I've spent a long, it's like breathe deeply. No, so I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I mean, like,
imagine.
Just like, it's like, why us? Like, what happened that we were the ones who built this? Like,
I always fascinated to like, what is that like for the person who made it? And it's got to be so bizarre to see it just continue to spread. I mean, it's not getting smaller, it just keeps getting bigger, which is nuts. Like, there are 3 billion people, it's getting bigger. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Well, how long do you see yourself doing this? How long do you see yourself running it?
I'm not sure if that'll be the reason. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm probably going to do this for a while just because.
And it kind of reminded me of, in the movie, The Social Network, they kind of revealed that his business card, his first business card said, "I'm CEO," right? And how he had like talked bad about his users. He's like, I can't remember exactly what was said, but he was like kind of down talking, the people who would actually use his platform.
Yeah.
And I got this feeling because I, remembered that. I don't think anyone would just make that connection, right? But my connection was like, I think he still feels that way. I think he has resentment towards the users of Facebook because a lot of them have turned on him. He probably has resentment towards the media companies. Before Facebook was, the news feed was all about news, right? They were going all in on news. You know about that, right? Even when you go, like when I was logged into Creator Studio or whatever, like I have a news site. So they were asking me to connect my website so that way it would serve up. It's called Facebook Instant Articles. So then when someone clicks on one of our links, it opens up in Instant Articles, which is a Facebook browser that will just load instantly. So instead of taking 10 seconds to load, which the average link takes 10 seconds to load, it just loads within like a second. And then they place the Facebook Audience Network ads in your content. So they were going all in with news and media. And then just, last month or maybe a month and a half ago, they've now switched their positioning and now they're all in on creators.
There's some awesome evolutions that are happening there with enabling more creators and enabling more people to have a voice there. I mean, the creative economy has sort of exploded over the last few years. And I think it's just at the beginning of like sort of hopefully remaking a lot of the economy for the country and the world so that way more people can pursue creative endeavors. I think that's just going to be one of the most positive trends. I think the news in general is often negative. I think the incentives of the news industry are often to well, I think just the mission of the news industry is to kind of speak truth to power and highlight things, like hold people accountable. So I think that even if you're looking at it from that perspective, I think a lot of the stuff is like it generally has this very critical tone to it. I think that what we've tried to do with Facebook is have a little bit of both, right? Facebook has images and videos, but it also has news. And the part of it that's probably the most critical, where we probably have the most controversies around the more newsy type stuff, the more political type stuff.
Right? So they're moving away from news and media and going towards creators. So what I think happened is that people are just sick of all the. I think Facebook doesn't want to have to. Monitor the news and decide what's true and false. So they're trying to get away from news. people are just sick of all the negativity of the news and all the kind of what we call fake news and so on, right? And I think that Mark Zuck is probably having some resentment towards all these media companies that he's trying to work with who are talking about him and shit about his platform, right? So he's like, screw that. He's going with the millennials who are these creators. And apparently, I just saw a stat that the average creator is 31 years old. I just learned that today. I thought it was much younger than that. So anyway.
Well, I was going to say on that front, I mean, I haven't seen the interview. I don't know the complete story, but hearing some of that, part of that last piece you were saying about his reasons, his intentions, could be. The other thing on that content creator side is it could just be where the money is. Like there was money in news for a while, but it almost feels like that little bubble might have passed. I don't know. I just remember back in 2016, for around that time period, like having clients that were in that space. And it's like I don't get those type of like people coming to me. So it was, again, that's kind of like firsthand, not the best proof of it, but I just felt like it was a big boom in news and news grid and those types of sites. Mm-hmm. It just seems like maybe the heyday is past there, and it's like content creators are super valuable. And if they can kind of be the platform for these new content creators, and they can have I don't know if they have payment gateways and do all these other things, like it's the metaverse, like It makes sense that that's the play, and they would actually try to empower creators, so to speak.
The ad spending is now moving towards creators. So more brands are exponentially spending more on with creators in sponsored videos and so on than they were in Facebook ads, which I think is smart. I think it's a smart move. Right. So they'll spend, it's also an arbitrary right now. People don't really know, like, what is the correct amount? What is one creator's value over another? Right. And it really depends on the match between the brand and the creator and how closely aligned that matches. Right. Like if I were to do an ad spot with Mr. Beast or something like that, right? His audience is not really my audience. So it wouldn't even really make sense for me. Right. Therefore, the value of that would not really make sense. Right. But it seems like a lot of online gaming and, Carrot Card or Honey, they seem to be doing more sponsorship with those kind of people who have that sort of an audience that they're targeting. So that could be another reason why. So that the reason why Facebook is going after more so creators. And back in like 2012, YouTube bought FameBit. And FameBit was a platform that connected brands with creators, and that is now part of YouTube's suite of tools. I'll just say it's there. It's once you become like a paid creator, you can connect with brands through their platform. So I predict that Facebook is going to buy one of these. And what's even more interesting is I was getting into the startup world, looking at like different tech and kind of what a good tech startup would be. And I was looking at Techstars and 500 startups, and I was just going back at their previous cohorts and just looking at what startups were created. It was probably 50% of them were products that in some way were supporting connecting with creators, brands connecting with creators. There was a lot of technology and startups that are in that space right now. So I think that there's a lot of play for Facebook going to buy one of these platforms. LinkedIn will buy one of these platforms. Twitter will buy one of these platforms, right? So I think that in terms of like building something that gets acquired, maybe Google's going to buy one of these platforms again, right? I mean, YouTube bought one, but Google could too. So I think that connecting brands with creators is going to be like the next form of online advertising, and people got to figure out like how do you. Right now, it's like a Wild West. You don't know how much you're supposed to pay. What's the average CPM you should pay? You just don't know, right? Everything is just kind of made up right now, and there's no one sort of like here's how this should work, right? Yeah, we covered before, Andrew and I, in a previous episode, we were covering how the amount of money that's being spent on Facebook has decreased. I think it was $19 billion was their revenue through ads. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it was. And they were talking about how that's going down now because of Apple killed the cookie in Safari, which now Google is killing the cookie in Chrome by next year. I've actually been doing a lot of research into like what the next cookie is going to be. I really want to cover on the show, but there's actually a few different theories right now. No one's really clear on what the universal new cookie tracking system is going to be, but apparently cookies.
Can you give me the 30-second summary of what it could be?
No, there is a particular technology that everyone's leaning towards. I can't remember what it's called right now. But there's a particular technology that people are saying that that's probably what it's going to be. But Google is phasing out the cookie by the end of this year or next year or something like that. I think in 2023. So the cookie will be no more, right? Regardless, so because Cookie does a lot of tracking across different apps and stuff for Facebook, so their targeting is less accurate. So Facebook made a big fuss about it. Mark Zuckerberg said that Apple was harming small businesses because it wasn't giving them accurate data, which in a sense kind of true, right? But also for me, I'm not so against personalized targeting ads, because I would rather have more targeted ads than not, right? What I don't like is that I think our phones are definitely spying on us. I think when you say something into your phone, even when it's off, I think that they're listening, particularly your phone. I have actually tested this a lot, and I know that it is actually true. I've actually done surveys on this, not statistically accurate surveys, but just asking people what they think in my stories and doing stuff like that. And majority of people also believe that. But what's interesting is that I have Google speakers all over my house, and I don't think that the Google speaker is listening to me and targeting me with ads. Maybe based on what I search on in the Google speaker, but I haven't noticed any sort of targeting based on talking to my Google speaker. But there's something up with the phone, and I think it's the apps inside the phones that are possibly listening to your microphone.
Yeah, it's a very it's a strange new world with the whole influencer piece and how big that's becoming too. It's like the nature of this, because obviously if things are fractal, and so the more it's funny because there is kind of like an exodus from these platforms a little bit. Yet at the same time, these content creators are what's going to bring people back to these platforms, because people will tune in to somebody they want to listen to. So it's like the value of that is now being amplified, because you just can't do it through. You can. I mean, they can definitely impact the algorithm. They can change kind of what comes up in search. They can influence on a broad scale what everybody sees. But it's the individual content creators that if they can kind of like be able to place the right ad or place the right message, becomes a very powerful capability and obvious trend of what they're going to try to take control of next.
Yeah, because a lot of these brands are trying to build trust, right, within these different audiences. They're coming in, they want to build their platform on Twitter or Instagram, or whatever. So if they work with somebody who already has trust with their audience, then they kind of like get that trust, right? And also it's different from like running ads on YouTube, because like your ad is actually in the video, it's being said by the creator, right? And you see a lot of that, right? Most creators have some sort of like, this video is sponsored by whatever, right? What I do find interesting with those is that most of the time, a lot of them, like I would never even remember who sponsors who, unless they're doing it a lot. Like I know Honey, Manscaped, Carrot Card, a lot of those mobile games. I can't remember which names they are, but I see those being like amongst a lot of different creators. So when I hearing like there's like a group of creators that I might be paying attention to, right? But when they're all sort of at some point talking about it, then it like gives it so much more credibility, right? So you just think about the amount of ad spend that they have to do in order to kind of like be able to make it so as as a consumer of content, right? I'm going in and I'm focusing on all these different creators' content, and I keep hearing about, these various products all the time, but throughout, from a whole bunch of them, before it becomes like really like ingrained, then I'm like, I really remember what this thing is, So.
What are your thoughts on that? Like, what's the commentary there? Is it that like it's an impressive amount of money they have to like wield and spend on this?
Yeah,
like the distribution, or that it is effective?
I think both. I think it is effective, but I mean, I'm imagining they're spending many millions, but they're spending before maybe spending many millions on just ads, right? But I mean, a lot of this, sometimes they'll say, go here, use my promo code, right? That way they can actually track that where it came from, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it must work, but they're also maybe venture backed, and they just know, okay, if we, it's just like TV advertising, right? It's the same sort of idea. Actually, what's interesting, just real quick, is like I was watching I watch the Nelk Boys and the Full Send podcast, and they always make a joke about how they're not sponsored by anybody, and that they just made their own products, which is really smart. They have their supplements company, and they have Happy Dad, their alcohol, plus they do their merch drops, which is very common amongst creators, right? So instead of working with these other brands, they just make their own brands, which is way smarter to do. As I said, I predict they're going to sell Happy Dad for $1 billion. in like I predicted in 5 years, but that was my prediction last year. So in 4 more years, I think they'll sell it for like $1 billion. And supplements.co, they could sell that too. I'm not sure. So that was interesting seeing that Mark Zuckerberg, his shift from working with news to going towards creators.
So
and
why
stuff.
why the timing on that?
What going on?
Why now?
On Joe Rogan?
Why does he do? Yes. Why the transformation now? Like what's the obviously he's there's puppet masters behind these people,
yeah.
right?
So
So I'm curious what the thing is.
I think it was the amount of pressure they're getting from TikTok, the comparison of TikTok from Instagram. I think Instagram usage is going down. Instagram just had that little ordeal where one of the Kardashians started this whole like make Instagram again. Remember? And so I think he's trying to appeal more to those sort of people. That's one kind of thought process. I think also that they probably planned this a long time ago. I think he probably during that time he was trying to think about how do I reinvent my brand? How do I make myself cool?
Yeah. I'm sure this is part of a 5 to 10 year plan. Like for sure. Like strategically speaking, they're like, this is when we have to get the upswing because then we got to roll out the meta chain.
Yeah.
And you know, whatever it is.
He's probably getting pressure from his board. It's also like you looking at, you know, how cool Elon Musk is as a billionaire. And he's probably trying to get some of that, right? Because he's getting a lot of benefit from that. I also predict, so I'm thinking at Christmas time, probably November, December, we see him on Saturday Night Live. And I'm predicting that he gets an autobiography written of him. And I'm going to guess it's going to be written by, what's his name? The same guy who wrote the Steve Jobs autobiography. He's wrote a lot of books that have to do with people in the tech world. What's his name?
Did he do, speaking of Tesla, did he do Elon Musk's biography? I read that one.
No.
That was pretty good.
Walter Isaacson.
Yep.
So he did the Steve Jobs, which was really good. Then he did the Innovators, which is like a whole bunch of people who kind of got into the startup space. This is like my total prediction. I just want to see if make the prediction it comes true. Either way, I do think that there's going to be a really well done book on his background, which will help again to reshape his history, because I think that I think that that movie did a lot of bad for him, right? And that a lot of people hate Facebook for the kind of, it's a lot of negativity, a lot of just stuff, right? It's just a lot of stuff sucks, I don't know. Facebook got so bad. But here's the thing. So what?
I was going to say, well, real quick, I got a comment. I mean, Facebook was going to end up Facebook no matter what, with or without that movie. Like I maybe it had an impact, but I think the platform just got boring, repetitive, and kind of lame.
Yeah, it wasn't
right?
the movie
That's why
that
people left.
killed Facebook. Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
It was, but the thing is, what I think with all social media and everything is it just amplifies like who we really are. I don't think it's Facebook
always has to end in frivolousness and like just meaninglessness that then gets like squeezed out as how much cash can get squeezed out of it. Is that the like eternal or always is that always the trajectory of every social media channel?
Well, no, the thing is that
banality.
Like, it's about humans and human nature, right? Like we are just like most people are just negative people, right? Most people are just complaining, criticizing, judging, right? Looking for attention, looking for validation, right? Looking for status, right? All those things get amplified online, and we just see it as like a news feed, right? Versus in the real world, you have to actually interact with people to like figure out those things. So the fact that there's all this negativity on social networks or whatever is going on in various platforms, it's just about the humans that are on it, right? It's kind of like the concept, like guns don't kill people, people kill people, right? So it's like how you use the tool, right? And so that's why I say, like, I think Zuckerberg probably has some resentment towards, the users of Facebook for that reason. And kind of because he realizes he's the one who gets all the blame for all the kind of crap that goes on there, right? And you look at like Instagram, it's a younger crowd, so and you can't post links and articles and stuff. I was posting an image, right? But it's like younger crowd, which it means it's more vain, more about posturing, more about validation, looking good, girls and boys. You know what I mean? Like this whole dating. You know what I mean? It's like a different vibe, right? And that's why you see how Facebook was originally we had those people on it. Now those people grew up, their parents got on it, so it's more of like an older generation of people that are on Facebook. It's growing up, right? Because the users grew up, and that's why Instagram was like new, right? So now TikTok is like the new for the young, and Snapchat was the new for the young. So there's going to be another thing that's going to be the new for the young. Maybe it's Be Real that we talked about last time or something, right? But it's also interesting that they've kind of stopped Facebook because they consider them becoming a monopoly. So they're stopping them from even acquiring other networks, right? And even if they try to make another platform,
who stopped them?
the like the government, whatever. They were like,
was there a case?
I think there was something to do with they were trying to they were trying to break up Facebook. So they wanted to make Facebook its own company, Instagram its own company, WhatsApp its own company. They were attempting to do a breakup.
Huh.
I don't think it ever went through, but that was what was discussed during the whole Senate thing,
Okay.
right? Which I don't believe. Like, the whole idea about you read what's his name? 0 to 1.
Oh
Big
yeah,
Deal?
yeah. Yep.
He's like, in order to be successful, you need to create a monopoly.
Yes.
So the whole time you're growing, you want to say you have a monopoly.
Yeah.
Once you have a monopoly, you deny that you have a monopoly, right?
Yeah, of course.
So,
It's genius. I appreciate his honesty.
yeah. So like you look at but really no one really has a monopoly because everything can be disrupted, right? Like even look at Google.
No, I think there are monopolies, man. Like I don't think YouTube can be taken over. I don't think Twitter can be taken over. I don't think Facebook even can be taken over.
but what is-
Amazon can't be taken over. Nothing
what
can
do
take
they-
over these companies.
Yeah, but what do they have? Yeah. Okay, look, what do they have a monopoly on though, right? Like when you look at like online shopping, right? Does Amazon have a monopoly on online shopping? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Do you think so? Because like
Oh yeah.
of all the places you could buy things online compared to Amazon, I bet you there's more. I'm guessing.
Check it out. Check it out. Here's how you can measure the impact of a monopoly, though.
Yeah.
Is do they control the prices? And immediately you know that to be true when you look at ebook prices. It was like the first thing that came out. It was like basically Kindle was introduced, and automatically it's like an ebook's not going higher than $10. And in reality, it's actually going to be like average out around $1 to $3 or $5. I think people are increasing the prices now, but like that was how it existed for like a decade. So a monopoly, even if it doesn't seem like that, and I understand the argument, well, somebody else can come in and do this other thing. Like, Facebook could come in and introduce their own marketplace. It's like our own Amazon equivalent. Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. It's so ingrained that I don't see any of these companies giving up the positions they have in the space they're in. And so and the monopoly thing on that front too is that same effect is across the board. You even see it with their Amazon Basics. The whole nature of it is see who are the competitive winners.
I know, yeah.
Then build a product to replace the high low end or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like this whole strategic dominance thing that you could only do if you were a monopoly.
Yeah, I remember when Bezos was getting grilled by the Senate, and they actually brought that up, and they were showing him various products. There was a particular bag that was a number one seller, and then they totally ripped it off, and then lowered the price on it, whatever. And then he was like, "I don't know about this." He was just like kind of acting like he didn't know. But yeah, that
Bezos. Well, he's too busy building rockets. He doesn't know what's going on anymore.
But you could tell. I think that you could tell he was lying during the thing. That was the impression I got, that he was like clearly knew what they were talking about. But there was many other cases like that he just put people out of business because I
think he was just daydreaming about walking on the moon.
Yeah, whatever.
And floating in space.
Yeah. The other one too I thought was interesting in terms of like I don't know if it's a monopoly, but it's like Shopify. I heard that Shopify just changed the way that apps get into their app store, that now you have to give them like a percentage of all your revenue or something like this because too many people were bypassing their app store. I just saw a post about this, and then I saw him posting about it that like he's like we're not going to be on the Shopify app store anymore because they want like half of all of our revenue. So I thought it was interesting. I also think that it's just like Shopify as like because now I was trying to get into this e-commerce space and just looking at different platforms, and they definitely have a dominance there, because everybody asks, I'm like, what about WooCommerce and WordPress, and like what is the other option? Everyone's like, no, it's like you needed Shopify, it's all built in, right?
Yeah, I think what we're starting to experience is like that that effect of like late stage internet capitalism, right? When these companies become so big and they dominate so much of the market, and these are markets that aren't necessarily like that tangible, but like they are all the digital glue behind the scenes of what operates everything in many ways. And some of these things can kind of get in such dominant positions that I'm curious about it. Like I'm like, you know, especially the platforms are the most obvious ones: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever. The platforms that control the medium of communication and stuff like that. And they're in such a dominant position. I don't see any player coming up and challenging any of that.
It could always happen. Like you're seeing now with Rumble. You know, after Andrew Tate got banned, he's now gone over to Rumble. Steve will do it. He's a YouTuber, and he got banned from YouTube. He's never allowed to have a channel again. It was kind of dumb how he got banned and why he got banned. He was, you know, he's promoting the stake, this online gambling thing. And then I guess he's supposed to blur out the screen if he shows a screen, and he didn't blur it out enough, something like this. So they now banned him. His whole channel. He had, I don't know, over 1 million, maybe 2 million subscribers, and he was spending money like he was kind of like the R-rated Mr. Beast, kind of giving away money, but also kind of like, you know, making offensive jokes, let's just say, right? Or like, you know, borderline joke, right? For me, I'm not offended by it, but I just, you know, I could see why people wouldn't like it. You know, I felt bad for him, but now he's talking about maybe going over to Rumble as well, right? I know Joe Rogan talked about that they offered him $100 million during the whole time that, you know, the whole thing, the fiasco was going on with him kind of spreading false information. I think that they're a major player. I think Rumble could be like the next YouTube. Now that like Andrew Tate goes there, if Steve will do it goes there, these are some guys that like I like watching that I would actually go. I've never even logged into Rumble. I don't have an account, but I would consider it if there's some big person who goes there. And Elon Musk, he's been talking about X.com. It's coming, and that's going to be his replacement to Twitter.
Maybe. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see, man. It's like I've heard that a lot of times. Like, this is going to take over Twitter, or this is going to be the new thing, and everybody's moving over here. And I'm like, I've seen these things come and go. I've heard of a lot of video platforms that were going to be the new YouTube. So we'll see. Yeah. I think the unfortunate part, well, I think here's the thing. I don't think anybody will usurp the dominant position, so it'll always be there. However, I think there will be bigger markets for these sub niches, or if you go for this type of content. So if you want slightly edgier content, okay, you go to Rumble. And then if Rumble bans you and you have your own platform, you go to this thing over here or whatever. There's obviously a trend of creators setting up their own platforms, their own memberships, their own things. The ones that have been, like, I think, deplatformed especially.
Yeah. That's a bit different because they can still use, it seems like Vimeo seems to be where they're going, right? Yep. It's interesting with actually, I just want to point out real quick how Amazon runs AWS, and AWS runs like a lot of the internet, right? So I'm surprised that they haven't come down with stricter rules for what they're allowing and not allowing and so on, right? Hopefully it doesn't come down to that, because once they start getting down to like hosting companies banning you, and you're no longer, right? Because a lot of other hosting companies are actually just buying hosting from one place and then selling it at a premium with a new UI somewhere else. So there's not a lot of data centers, right, out there.
Yeah,
so if they start,
I'll set up my own. That'll be an excellent opportunity.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, that's the thing. But what if they start regulating? If you want to have a data center, right, you have to abide by these. Yeah, you know. Therefore, that's how they could really censor. It's like getting down to hosting. That's when they're going to censor everybody, right, at one point, right?
Eventually, but don't you see that that's inevitable? I don't see how that's not inevitable. Like, I think it has to go there eventually.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically, that's what I'm saying, is that it's interesting that Amazon and AWS have not been in the news for censoring, right? It's always like the choice of like a YouTube or a this or that, right? But it's like, what happens when, you know? It's like...
well, AWS, again, it's also state subsidized, state funded as well. So,
oh, is it? I don't even know.
Yeah. FBI, CIA, all this stuff uses their servers, whatever. So like when you get to that level of that entanglement of high-level government things interacting with very large corporations, it's let's just say it's a strange setup. It's not your typical free market capitalist setup.
Do you think this whole like I don't know, blockchain stuff, like, do you think that could make some sort of a hosting that's kind of decentralized? Therefore, you know, is that possible? I don't even know.
Technically, Ethereum's supposed to be just that. Like it's supposed to be like an app that you hypothetically, in Ethereum would be just one example where it's almost like a distributed server. So yes, technically, it's possible. The question is, when does that ever become a reality? And then when it becomes a reality, the people who develop it, are they just going to do it out of the goodness of their heart, make it decentralized? Like I think the decentralized bandwagon of crypto it's misleading, and it'll show itself over time to be misleading, because I do believe the blockchain will not be decentralized in the end, and it won't be anonymous in the end. I don't think it even claims to be honest with you. It's almost like you have that permanent ledger. So I'm like, it's going to this strange. So I'm like, even the benefits of it, the proposed benefits of it, I'm skeptical of them. I think there's some interesting tech, but it would have to be intentionally built. So you'd have to get it would be like nonprofits or people who are really passionate about like maintaining some free speech type of thing or whatever, right? Like that's the only way I see. Otherwise, people will see how much money they can make by creating the thing, but not actually having any of the elements or components that supposedly make it special. Anonymity, decentralization, and what that supposedly
because I would imagine
means.
that even if you let your computer run some background software that was giving away your computer processing and earning a crypto for that, right? Let's just say Apple, closed ecosystem, they could probably make it so you can't do that if they wanted to, or if they were forced to, I'm guessing, right? Probably the internet service providers could probably figure out that you're doing that somehow, right? And so that they can prevent that. So it would be like, you're probably gonna need some old Pentium computers or something like that, and like, it's gonna be a little bit like, so how many ways you could try to get around if they really wanted to, prevent people from creating a decentralized hosting platform that allows you to host things that are like, censored. I am definitely against anything like illegal. I don't like the idea of censoring people based on their opinions. Like this whole Andrew Tate thing, I had a concerned mother reach out to me and say, like, how could you support this Andrew Tate? He talks about, beating women and stuff like that. I'm like, did he say that? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, send me the clip. And she's like, no, I got time, So I quickly went and looked it up. And there was this hilarious video of him holding a machete, talking about how he's gonna like slap a girl if she's cheating or something. I don't know what he's talking, but it was like clearly, like, to me, it was like a joke. It was like I was laughing so hard watching it. I'm like, there's no way someone's gonna watch this and think he's serious.
What would a woman do? Slap the machete, slap her in her face, one hand, machete and a backhand. I perfected this in pimp school. When I got my PhD, we had to practice if a girl comes at you, you cheater, you're cheating. It's bang out the machete, boom in her face, and then grip her up by the neck. Like, shut up!
It's like he's holding a machete, talking about like slapping a girl and stuff, right? But I could see, the concern. But then I thought about it, I was like I grew up listening to rap. I don't know about you, but I listen to a lot of rap music. Yeah. And like you listen to what rappers say, it is way worse. They're talking about murdering people and just like crazy stuff, right? And
yes.
so, and then I remember that she had a story, whatever was playing, that like one of her stories on her Instagram, that she was listening to Tupac, right? And I was like thinking about it. I was like Tupac said a lot of crazy stuff too, right? And so her concern was like, what if your son would hear what Andrew Tate had to say? It's like, I'm like, Andrew Tate is not my son's father. I'm his father, and I'm gonna let him know that you ain't gonna slap no girls.
To Andrew Tate.
You slap a girl, I'm gonna kick your ass. So, but it's like, to me, it's like it was a joke that he's like the whole thing, and like the fact that people don't get that that's a joke, and I was like, it just, I don't know, right? So I don't like that. Censoring Andrew Tate, or like what they did to Steve Will Do It, and even Alex Jones, and I don't agree with, like, he was the first person to get deplatformed, right? I think his whole thing with the Sandy Cook case, whatever. I mean, I don't even understand how he got sued. I understand why it was stupid what he said. I'm surprised he got
I'm
sued.
Surprised he got sued. I'm surprised there was, because usually you have to what is it? You have to demonstrate or show damages.
Yeah.
So it was like, just because he's saying some things, and I didn't pay attention to the court case at all, so I actually have no idea what happened. Yeah. But from afar, I'm like, that's really interesting, because I mean, that's really, it's interesting, some of these court cases, which gets to, we may not get into it now, but the why I'm suing YouTube kind of court case. And it's just, sometimes I find these these cases fascinating, how they are like playing out, and it all comes back to a central theme, which we were just talking about, which is, I think the concept of censorship is a big theme. Like it's all this stuff, it's censorship and how things are going to play out. Because it's like that's the next thing, man. We grew up in the wild west of the internet. You know what I mean? You and I, and all the OGs. And it was like at that time, it was like set up a website, like GeoCities, whatever. It's like gotta hack together this. There were no platforms. It was just like wild west.
Yeah.
This next age now is all the social media. It's all the owned platforms. Those owned platforms they supposed to be, are supposed to be private enterprises, right? And that's where people claim to say things. Well, it's like a private company that can do what they want. Man, I'm just saying we're at a level where that doesn't really fly anymore. Like there's going to be ramifications for all this. It's coming down the pipeline, one way or another.
You know what's interesting? I actually I heard some good commentary on this, and I thought it was interesting. If I had a social platform, right, and let's just say I had only 1,000 people in it, and then some guy goes in there and starts saying some fucking crazy stuff, right?
Yes.
I'd probably
like
deplatform
gaslighting stuff.
Yeah, I'd probably deplatform him too, right? Like I wouldn't let him just go in there and just talk shit to everybody and ruin the vibe I'm trying to create, right? But so like looking at when you scale it down, I could totally see why they would be like, we don't want this person on our platform. It's our platform.
Yeah.
Right. But then when it becomes kind of like, I think Elon Musk described Twitter as like a town hall, right? Everyone could be there, right? So it's like a public space. And when it becomes a public space, then I think people should have, a different level of rights, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. But it's interesting. That's what they say about the public space. But then Twitter's strange, man. So on the Twitter front is interesting because the idea of that open space, again, does open space apply to this? That's a private company that's providing the open space. But it's like at some point there's going to be a bridge. These things are going to connect because they control too much because there is no physical public space anymore, especially when people are like, we're post COVID pandemic, right? And it's like, I guess people can go outside, but it's almost like, man, it's like people have been like mentally crippled from the last year or two. And so it's like the nature of the physical public space is almost no more. And so the digital one is even more significant. So eventually they're going to bridge the gap. This stuff has to be connected. Like, however you feel about that. I don't know. I think it's one of those things. It's not to get like worried about. It's more just to see that the trends are coming. I think for creators, take advantage of the platforms that are there if you can.
So I had noticed one other thing during the Joe Rogan, Mark Zuckerberg interview, which I thought was really interesting. So Joe Rogan was telling Mark Zuckerberg about how he recommends to comedians and to creators not to read the comments, right? Because it's just full of negativity and crap inside there. And then Mark Zuckerberg kind of makes a comment that he actually looks at what people are saying about him online, and Joe Rogan gets surprised.
I see so many comedians that get so much anxiety from like reading comments and going back and forth with people who are like talking to them on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I always tell them like, don't do that. Like it's really bad for you.
I struggle with this too.
Do you?
Well, I mean, on the one hand, some of this is it's free product feedback.
So I thought it was really interesting that, Mark Zuckerberg even cares about, how people are talking about him online, which kind of reiterates my point from the beginning that, he's trying to recreate his personal brand, right? By using his platform, basically. I think he's embracing his own platforms to try to tell this narrative, the story. I always say that, social media, when you're posting on social media, it's like your own reality show. You're telling this ongoing story of like what you're up to in your life. Back in the day, people would always share about like what they're eating, where they're going, like just like random pictures throughout their day in their life. Now people seem to be more about like, they got to get the best picture of themselves. They got to look really professional. You're not going to just like, for example, I take a picture of like just this coffee cup and be like, oh, loving my coffee today. Before, that's kind of the kind of post you would see on a Facebook or Instagram, right? But these days, it's not. You don't see a lot of that anymore, right? So that's what I would call a reality show, right? You're posting every day, just little glimpses of your life, right? So that's what I see him doing more of, but in a professional way, right? Obviously, the professional photos and so on. So I thought it was interesting. So now that we know that Mark Zuckerberg is paying attention to people talking about him, we're going to have to title this video something that's going to scare Mark Zuckerberg. He's bracing himself right now. He just clicked play on our video, and now he's hearing us talking about him. And now that we have his attention, we need to let Mark Zuckerberg know about all the issues with Creator Studio and the Meta Business Suite. So any social media managers out there are going to appreciate this one. All right. Tom, I know you don't use these platforms, right?
No.
Yeah, I know you're not scheduling stuff, right? So I'll let you know about all these freaking issues, okay? These issues have been going on for a long time. And so, okay, first of all, I think they made Creator Studio first, and then they made the Meta Business Suite. They both have similar features with different UIs. And they do certain things differently. I have no idea why they're both still there. There should just be one platform, but it's just ridiculous. Okay, so if you want to be able to schedule your posts on Facebook or Instagram, you need to be using, or the free tool to use is Creator Studio or the Meta Business Suite, which used to be called Facebook Business Suite. All right. So here's what's going on. First thing is that on Instagram, so they just introduced scheduling Reels, right? But what's really dumb about this is that on Instagram, they have increased the length of Reels to 90 seconds, but on Facebook, it's still only 60 seconds. So now when we create our Reels, we started embracing the new 90 seconds. We're like, hey, we can go over 60 seconds now, right? But then we realized we could not post those onto Facebook as a Facebook Reel, which is now Facebook is pushing Facebook Reels, right? What was more interesting though, I was actually looking into this when I was kind of preparing for the show, in that because we could not schedule them as Reels, we ended up just uploading them as regular videos. And the regular video upload of a vertical video versus a Reel was getting substantially more reach than the Reels. Like I think the Reels got about a reach of about 50 people. When we uploaded a vertical video as a regular video, it got a reach of like 250 just by posting it and not doing anything else. So I thought that was kind of weird and interesting. And then when you go, I couldn't figure out how do you upload Reels to Instagram or schedule Reels on Instagram using Creator Studio, because we had reported about this before when this feature came out, but I was like, I can't do it. I could only schedule on Facebook. And I figured out that when you are in Creator Studio, what used to be IGTV, which they would say upload an IG video greater than 60 seconds. So they have removed IGTV, which allowed videos up to 20 minutes. That did not have to be vertical. They could just be, like a YouTube video as IGTV, right? So if you were to upload a video that was over a minute, it would automatically go to the IGTV tab, right? If it was under a minute, it would stay in the feed, right? Now, they didn't change the wording or anything inside Creator Studio. It just says IG video over 60 seconds, videos over 60 seconds. And I had no idea. I was like, what is this? And I realized that is Reels. They could have just changed the words and just say like Reels, but then it says videos over 60 seconds, but then you can only upload up to 90 seconds. So it's not really like, it's like, I don't even know what's going to happen. I didn't even try what happens if I upload a video that's over 90 seconds. I don't think it's going to work. It's just weird. The whole wording of it, everything that they didn't like, they kind of like announced this whole thing. You can now schedule Reels on Instagram, but the whole experience doesn't really work. But they did open up their API to third-party tools. So we are scheduling Reels using a tool. We use Publer. You can use anything. You can use Later. You can use anything you want, right? But then here's the other one. So there's not a clear difference between Creator Studio and Meta Business Suite, right? They both have similar features, okay? So what I discovered is we want to schedule all of our stories, right, on Instagram and on Facebook. So when you go and you take let's say I take a 60-second video, if I'm not scheduling and I'm like on Instagram and I want to upload it as a story, it will automatically chop it up into 15-second chunks, right? So when people tap, it goes every 15 seconds, right? When you upload it in Creator Studio or in Meta Business Suite, it'll only upload the first 15 seconds. So you would then have to manually edit your video and upload it in 15-second chunks, okay? So I was like, okay, what if I do this in the app? So I opened up the Creator Studio mobile app and I tried. Same issue. Only upload 15 seconds at a time. In the Meta Business Suite app, it works. You can schedule your stories only in the Meta Business Suite app, and it will upload a 1-minute video, chop it up into 15-second chunks. So, that's the only way to schedule stories in Facebook Creator Studio, through Facebook's tools, I should say. It's actually Meta Business Suite app. But what's more is that you cannot add stickers or anything in that schedule, right? So therefore, like I could also, if I want to schedule stories on any third-party app, it'll actually open the app would, like, let's say I use Later, for example. Later is a very popular Instagram scheduling tool. It would send me a notification at that time. Then I would click on it, open it up, and it would preload my story in Instagram or Facebook or whatever. Or I think, let's say in Instagram, I could auto-publish it to Facebook. Then I can go and add my stickers in at that time and then hit publish, right? But if I schedule a story using the Meta Business Suite app, I still cannot use stickers. So I can't add a link to go watch the video on YouTube or anything like that. So the whole scheduling of stories is still not really, it's very difficult. You basically, the kind of better way to do it is to just use these third-party schedulers that will send you the notification. You open it up, add the stickers in at that time, boom, boom, you're good to go, right? And the other thing that I realized is that because I was a Facebook manager for so many brands and businesses, I also coach people to help them with their social media. I'm an admin on, over 100 Facebook pages, and I was an admin on dozens of Facebook ads accounts. And I started hearing about people who were getting banned from Facebook, their ad account getting banned on Facebook because another ad account they were admin to, broke some rules or something. So I was like, oh, I don't want to get my account banned. So I went to go and remove myself from all these other ad accounts. It was such an ordeal to try to figure this out. I had to go through and I don't even know how to explain what I had to do, but it took me so long. I had to go through and I had to click on 3 different places to try to get it off. It wasn't a straightforward thing. And now I want to try to get rid of all this admin privileges I have on all these accounts. And if I try to do it, it's like I have to go to individually every single one of these pages. I have to remove myself as an admin from their page. Then I have to go into the Creator Studio where they also added me into their Creator Studio and or also added me into their Meta Business Suite. And I have to remove myself in so many different places. I was trying to do it. It's going to take me forever to try to get this going, to get this done. And every time I open up Creator Studio, it keeps defaulting to someone else's profile. And I have to keep going back. I'm like, no, I want to use my profile. I want to do this. And it is just the way that it works is just crazy. And here's the other thing that I had figured out that I never knew that this was even a thing is that, are you familiar with Gary Vee's $1.80 strategy?
No.
So the idea is that you use hashtags in your post, then you click on those hashtags or just go to people's posts and you leave your 2 cents. And you do that to, I think his idea was you do that to 90 posts a day, which is $1.80, right? Leaving your 2 cents 90 times. So it's you pick 5 hashtags or whatever. I don't know my hashtag. I don't know exactly what the math is on it, but it's kind of the idea is that you're leaving your 2 cents, right? So you leave 90 comments a day. And that's how you grow on Instagram, which is true. You need to be engaging. Actually, that's even more true. I found out on Twitter. If you don't engage with people on Twitter, your reach is going to go nowhere. So now this is the best way to grow. This is the most organic way to grow on Instagram, right? Unless you want to do shout outs and all that kind of stuff, right? Or running ads, I guess. But for the most part, people growing on Instagram, they're doing it through influencer shout outs, contests, a lot of bullshit ways, right? Buying fake followers, all that stuff, right? But the best way is to actually just go and engage. But as a business owner, I can't, spend every day leaving 90 comments, right? So I want to be able to let my social media manager do it. The only way to do this is to give your password to them. You cannot admin somebody to your Instagram account in a way that allows them to use Instagram and look and comment on people's stuff. You could admin them through the Creator Studio. They could respond to your DMs. They could publish content, and they can respond to comments and so on. But they cannot use Instagram through your account unless you give them the password, right? Which is weird. Is and I looked at okay, what if you just use a password manager or something like that, right? But I find password managers is kind of pointless, right? It's use a password manager. They could still, I don't know. It just doesn't matter, right? If you don't want them to have the password anymore, you would just change your password versus removing them from your password manager. And I think some password managers, you can actually still see there's something else you could install to actually see what the password is. Do you know about that?
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, it's crazy that I don't get why. And password managers also don't make sense because if somebody ever hacks your password manager, they now have access to everything in one place. When I first saw password managers, I thought the security feature was that if one of your passwords gets leaked, you could change your password on all the places that use that password in one click. And that's what I thought it was. right? But it's not. It's like and it's you can't even figure out which accounts use that password. You have to manually go and check every single account in the password manager, right?
Yeah, it's
so it's
crazy.
Yeah. So I have a really good system now for passwords where like I have like my weak password, my mid-tier password, and then my like super strong passwords.
Yeah, password, God 1 2 3 4.
Yeah, something. But if I ever sign up for some new software that's like a startup thing, or I don't know what they're using to really secure your password, if I don't know what the company is and it's not an important thing, I use like a low tier password, right? But when it's something like more important, then I'm like, okay, I want to make sure this never gets hacked. Then I use like a super high tier password. That way, if that password gets leaked, like doesn't matter. It's just like a bunch of accounts I don't care about, or if I got to share it, I just use like a shared, I don't care about the password, right?
So you use the same passwords then for a multitude of things. You don't do unique passwords for each one, because I think that's one of the supposed benefits of the password managers too, is you could do like unique passwords per account.
Oh, and have them all. But then you have to always have that thing. You can't ever log in unless you have it installed and stuff. Yeah,
which is
I have
frustrating.
I have 3 tiers, so I have like sets of passwords that are in different tiers. I was surprised to find out that there's no way to give somebody access to your Instagram without giving them the password.
So this is all for Mark. Mark, if you're listening, you got to fix this, man. This sounds horrible. What I'm listening, Matt going through right now is.
If they want to call me, I could really like dive in and just like look at Creator Studio, look at Meta Business Suite, and just simplify this whole thing. I think it's like the amount of engineers they must have there and design people and stuff. Like, why is this not getting done? When Sheryl Sandberg, when she announced that she was leaving, I was like, oh, maybe the new COO is going to like come in there and fix up Creator Studio and Meta Business Suite. Especially now if they're focused on targeting creators, I would imagine they want to make, Creator Studio, a bit more powerful and, maybe simplify Facebook ads and, I remember
my limited experience with both Creator Studio and Meta Business Suite, because I'm very limited on these platforms, but I do engage. And every now and then I'll run an ad or do something like that. And every time, obviously, it's a new experience. It's a new setup. One of the other frustrations is pixels and pixel and ad accounts and stuff like that. And the whole thing is a nightmare. It's really a nightmare to use anything Facebook. It's horrible.
The ads, it became crazy. Like I remember before, I used to have this thing where it was like $1 a day strategy where you just every time you post, you put $1 behind it, and it would just give you like this little boost all the time. But if you ever hit that boost post button, before I don't know what the stat is now, but I remember before the CPM, which is like the cost per 1,000 impressions on the boost post button, was like $20. Right? This is like before. This is like a few years ago. I don't know what it's at now. But then if you were to go into Facebook
probably
ads,
like $50.
No, if you were running the ad in Facebook ads, the average CPM was $6.
Oh yeah. You have to, but you have to do the more difficult thing to do. Otherwise, they're going to charge you more. Yeah, of course.
So they're charging you like 4 times more to hit boost post.
Yeah.
Versus
it's like a lazy tax. It's like, okay, you're being lazy here. This is now what you have to pay. Otherwise, you have to go into our horrendous back end that makes no sense, and you can save some money.
Yeah, and it was also.
I also wonder with companies like this, because they seem to be so big, and you think they'd have all these brilliant engineers, and I do believe they have brilliant engineers, probably the best in the world, like at these companies.
Yeah.
So I know they know how to like create fixes and solve problems, complex problems. So it sometimes begs the question, like when you see things that are this broken and inconsistent, are they doing it intentionally to some degree? Because you mentioned a couple apps yourself. It builds an ecosystem around it of people that have to use this broken platform and create all these fixes to things. And I'm like, they have the best engineers. Surely they could fix this. It doesn't seem like it would be that complicated. I'm also ignorant of that. I get it. But you see what I'm saying? It's like it creates a whole ecosystem when it's all broken.
I think the company got too big now, and there's probably too many layers to like get something approved to get done. Like you just look at the Facebook pages. Is a mess. I don't know how many Facebook pages you have, but there's like a new page experience they're calling it. I don't know if you've seen it, but because
I just don't want any more Facebook experiences, man.
No, I don't want any more experiences. And the new experience is annoying. It's like it's even worse than before. It's like so confusing to understand if you're like commenting as your page.
Mark, if you're listening, stop it.
No, what happens because I'm admin to like 100 Facebook pages, almost every time I log into Facebook, it's like, congratulations, this page now has a new page experience. I'm like, I don't care. Just stop showing it to me. And it just keeps on trying to convince me to log in as another page. I'm like, I'm not even a part of this business at all. They're not even, And even I remember when I was trying to remove myself from all these accounts, there was one account that owed like 2 cents or 20 cents or something like that. And I could not remove myself because they owed 20 cents. So I paid the 20 cents through PayPal. And I like messaged them like, just so you know, I went to remove myself. I paid your 20-cent bill. You know?
This is straight up. This is like something out of like the mob movies of like, you know, the 50s or something. It's like, yeah, it's like you got to pay the other guy's debt. Somebody's paying that debt or you're not getting out of this.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like 20 cents. Anyway, so,
I'm glad it's just 20 cents.
Yeah, they got to fix up all these tools because and I actually just saw recently that now they have a place where if you have issues with Facebook ads, you can actually message them now. Do you hear about that?
And then it goes to like a Chinese AI bot that just deletes
Who
it
knows?
and throws it
No,
into
but
the
apparently
ocean.
there's like a new thing where you can I don't know, give them feedback or whatever it was, and I just thought it was funny that now that everyone stops advertising on Facebook, now they're like, okay, now we care about you. Please come back. Like we'll give you the support. You're like. Up. I stopped running Facebook ads many years ago. Yeah, I used to be a Facebook ads manager, right? But I got so fed up with all the, the change this and that and this and that. Like sometimes my ad would get disapproved because they were saying it was like political. I'm like, this is not political. It's about muffins. Like, it's like, it's just wasting my time trying to like go and be like,
and there's no human interaction. It's so frustrating. It's the most
you have to go
frustrating
dispute
thing.
it. Yeah, I would dispute it, and then a couple of days later, they're like, it gets approved again. I'm like, why was this ever considered like to be political? It has nothing to do with politics.
It's because the poor Chinese AI programming. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
right.
not
but
cutting
like,
it.
They're
Facebook.
I just hate wasting people's time, and I feel like they're just like at mass wasting so many people's time because they're trying to save time or whatever it is, right? And they're causing so many issues. So I just got so fed up with it. I was like, I'm not even right. I still run Google Ads. I think Google Ads is actually pretty good, and they've always had ads reps and stuff.
And I bet YouTube ads would probably make sense. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never actually run.
I've always been
ads.
curious about them. But
yeah, me too. I think they are kind of a mystery of things, and I know people are running a lot of TikTok ads now. Apparently, TikTok's really good.
But I'm still questioning who's on TikTok, and I wonder. Depending, I know. Listen,
I
if your
think
market's
most
on
of the
it,
users are. Yeah, but I think most accounts are fake. I don't know if you've been on there, but like when you get followers and comments, you look at the accounts. They all have like numbers at the end of them.
I did a YouTube video about this back in like 2018. My analysis of this, which is that all these, and this is the true for a lot of these platforms. Yeah. It's over 50% bots. It's definitely run by bots, and I think the AI generated. You can see patterns in how comments are left on these platforms too. I believe they're rampant in YouTube, maybe not as much, but TikTok. I don't use TikTok, but presumably something like that would have just hundreds. And TikTok was one of those things where somebody's like, I posted myself like combing my hair and I got 1 million views, and it's like, okay, yeah, 1 million, 999,000 bots.
No, I know. I knew a girl that was like shaking her booty doing dances, and she had like hundreds of thousands of followers. And I was looking at her account, looking at who's liking it. It's like all these numbers at the end of the name, right? So that's what I think is weird. I think people who are on TikTok who are like, oh my god, I posted, I got all these followers. It's that vanity metric that makes them like they want to tell everyone about it because now they think that they're. They got validation. They don't realize that these are just fake accounts. So I think TikTok is fooling people into thinking they're growing their audience organically. There is a lot of organic reach on TikTok, right? I think that's what is unique about it is that there's like this random content always being fed to you, but it's just not what people think. Yep. And then it is so easy for them to determine these fake accounts. It's so obvious. If someone's following 5,000 people, has 20 followers, and has only posted 8 times, and it was like 4 years ago, it's a bot account, right? Like, how could you not figure that out, right? So, like, why not just be like, boom, get rid of them all, right? So
like everybody agrees to the lie. That's the whole thing. Like, you get on one of these platforms, it's like, I agree to the lie. Like, you're posting on TikTok, like, you really think those are all real people? You are agreeing to that lie. And then, like, they're like, hey, listen, here's the platform. This is clearly not real. You can work with us. Let's collaborate. And we all agree on this lie that half of these people are not real. Over half are not real. It's like everybody's happy. It's like, okay.
I think a lot of the younger creators actually think that they really have those followers. I don't think that they really believe
which
that.
Which is maybe a deeper issue that we'd have to dissect over several maybe years, maybe decades of what is happening to our society if that's the case.
But that's the thing is that with like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube all worried about TikTok. I just see TikTok as like it's mostly fake. It's like nothing to worry about. I don't know what the real usage is, but whatever stats they're putting out there for their usage, I wonder if it's even real. Like, do they really have anything to worry about? You know, like I guess I do know some people who actually use TikTok, but I never scroll TikTok to look at content, and it's not a place for connection, right? Like, you're not using TikTok to like keep in touch with your friends. It's a content consuming platform, right? But I just I never scroll it. But you know, I do know some people who do say that they like, I would scroll like Instagram. I think I do that. I don't do Facebook as much, but I think for the most part, I spend most time on YouTube. But yeah, I don't know, like, you know, does it really matter? I scroll, look at your video, I like it, I leave. Like, I don't have any connection, you know, there's no connection.
Yeah, it's just consumption. It's just like an entertainment device. The medium is not built around, you know, what we would consider more of an interaction, which would be like kind of that old school Facebook, or you posting something, or even Twitter, I guess, where maybe there's some engagement or something like that. You don't really get that. It's like, again, it's like, it's straight. Listen, hey, you know, I'm not gonna criticize people who love it. It's like, you know, whatever your thing is, go do it.
Right.
I've always just been curious about people and like who are trying to get their brand out there, and like, listen, I guess if your brand's like mobile games and like leggings or something like that, but otherwise, like, I just don't know who uses it, like, at a certain, depending on your demographic. You know, and so I'm
just like the user. It's like you're not building a relationship with people. Like, you know,
that's
that
exactly.
old saying
Yes.
of like, you want to get your first 1,000 fans. That's how you build a business, right?
Yep.
If you have like 1,000 fans or even 10,000
Yes,
real
on TikTok.
followers on TikTok, it's not real relationships. Like, I remember early on with like, you know, like Gary V on Twitter,
Yep.
right? When you'd follow him, I remember I followed him when he had like 30,000 followers. And the way he would post it, he was using Vidler. I don't know if you remember that. He would use Vidler for his videos. And on Vidler, you could leave comments in the timestamp, or as the video was going, you could leave comments in there. And it was like a real community of people that were like discussing what he's talking about.
Yep.
And like, you really felt like you knew him. And I remember when I first met him in person, it was like I knew everything about him already, right? And it's like, that's the kind of relationship you want to build with people. But I think you just cannot build that on TikTok.
No,
There's
I think you
not
could do
a
it.
relationship.
I think on YouTube you kind of can. Like, if
you
we're talking
can,
bigger.
yeah.
Especially with
'cause
live streams, I think too. Like,
but it's
that has
also
this-
just long form content. And I'm always, if I start watching one person's content, I start seeing a lot more of their stuff. I'm
Yep.
you know, and YouTubers know about, you know, watch time and like, you know,
Yep.
making it engaging. So I feel like I know, like, you know, I've been watching Joe Rogan for so long, for example, right? Like, I
Yep.
kind of feel like I kind of know him, right? Or like other YouTubers as well, right? Even like a Mr. Beast or whatever, right? And on Instagram, right, the people are always in the DMs, right? So there's still that relationship building side and the comments and the, you know, and Facebook, I would say, I don't know about Facebook pages, but personal profiles for sure, right? You build relationships there. On LinkedIn, for sure, you could build relationships there, right? And even on Twitter, I think you could build relationships on Twitter for sure too. There's certain people who use Twitter in that kind of a way. But TikTok, I don't see it. That's why I don't see TikTok as really being like a fierce competitor to that side of social media. But I guess because brands are moving their advertising dollars to TikTok, and I think that's what's scaring Meta and YouTube or whoever else, right? It's like where brands are spending money.
Well, it also comes back to when we were talking about TikTok adopting like the Spotify strategy or whatever. Like, I think that's also one of the reasons, like, moving in that direction versus like another. You can't really. I don't think you. I mean, maybe you could move in a direction where it becomes more community driven or more communicative or more engaging. Like, what's the engagement like on it? I don't know because I don't use the platform, so I'm partly ignorant. I did check it out at one point though, like a couple years ago when it was like the hot new thing. And I was like, yeah, it's like
right.
and then it was like the concept back then too, wasn't it just like you're doing a dance and then like somebody else does that same dance and then everybody's just doing the same dance to the same music? So again, I just never could wrap my head around it. And I don't know that how you can engage in that way.
Do you know how that concept where you're like, everyone's kind of like, it's almost like a challenge where it's like you're creating a certain piece of content and they created all these other variations of it. And there's like I think that's actually a very unique thing that they created.
Yeah.
It's like it helps you figure out what to create that's going to be engaging because you know what the framework or the concept is of that piece of content, and I think that part's cool, but it just that relationship building side is just not there. And
no.
But actually with TikTok going into the back because they were originally Musical.ly, right? You know that.
Mm-hmm.
So so I heard someone talk about how they're kind of like the new SoundCloud. They're a new way to discover new artists because there are certain artists who will go viral on TikTok, people like the track, then they go and discover that artist and so on, right? So it could end up becoming a place for discovering new artists, which would be interesting. But yeah, we should wrap it up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, good talk. And let's, yeah, I guess if you guys want to follow us on TikTok, we are at Web Friendly everywhere. You put it at Web Friendly on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, doesn't matter. But we are kind of creating reels and throwing that on various platforms, seeing what happens. So that's it. Take care.
Peace.